Aloha kako, and welcome to This Is Now on this first day of July.
New at noon, Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi signed a bill into law today that limits gifts to city employees.
Anything that we can possibly do to assure the public out there, the people who work here, are doing the right things for the right reasons for them. I want to be sure we can do that. So with the opportunity to sign this bill, hopefully we've taken a little bit of a bite out of that quick-to-label designation, if you will, of those people in elected office being corrupt. I will tell you I personally hate that.
The Ethics Commission staff and commissioners have worked long and hard to make this a reality. We had gifts rules in place before, but they needed strengthening, and this will accomplish that.
The new law prohibits gifts valued at more than $50 to city officers and employees. Previously, gifts worth up to $200 were allowed during a single fiscal year. In a long-awaited ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court today handed former President Trump a partial victory. The justices decided that presidents are entitled to immunity from prosecution for official conduct while in office, but they can be prosecuted for actions taken in a private capacity. The case now heads to a lower court to determine what's what. Alice Barr has more.
The Supreme Court today setting a new standard for presidential immunity that effectively hands a victory to former President Trump. The High Court ruling the former president is immune from prosecution for official conduct related to his presidential duties while he was in office, though not for personal acts.
The tricky part is what is an official act and what is not an official act, and how are we going to decide it?
The case now heads to a lower court to sort that out, making it highly unlikely Mr. Trump will go to trial before the November election on charges he tried to illegally overturn the 2020 election results, culminating in the January 6 Capitol attack. The former president calling it a big win, while a senior Biden campaign advisor said the ruling doesn't change the facts, arguing that Donald Trump snapped after losing the 2020 election. Protesters on both sides reacting outside the High Court.
I think Trump's role on January 6th was the commander-in-chief.
I'm outraged that American citizens will go to the polls in November not knowing the details.
The decision grants immunity to core presidential powers, including Mr. Trump's contacts with Justice Department officials as he sought to reverse the 2020 results, and outlines presumptive immunity for acts on the outer perimeter of official duties, like his discussions with former Vice President Mike Pence. In the majority opinion, Chief Justice John Roberts writing that immunity for official conduct is necessary to safeguard an energetic, independent executive. In a blistering dissent, the three liberal justices said, quote, "The court effectively creates a law-free zone around the president, upsetting the status quo that has existed since the founding." Critically, the ruling not only prevents presidents from being prosecuted for any official acts, it also says that official acts cannot be used as evidence in prosecutions over unofficial acts, and that makes it very difficult to present a case against a president under any circumstances. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Meanwhile, Mr. Trump's former White House strategist Steve Bannon is starting his 4-month prison sentence for defying a congressional subpoena. Bannon reported to a Connecticut prison today. He was convicted for not complying with the now defunct House Select Committee that investigated the January 6th Capitol insurrection. On Friday, the Supreme Court denied a long-shot effort by Bannon to avoid reporting to prison while he appealed the conviction. The prison in Connecticut is a low-security corrections facility with less than 1,200 inmates. Bannon is the second former Trump aide to be imprisoned for a contempt of Congress conviction. Peter Navarro began serving his 4-month sentence earlier this year. A 15-year-old boy is recovering after he was shot multiple times in Waianae. EMS crews were called to the scene on Alawalua Street at around 9:30 yesterday morning. We're told he was hit on his arm and leg. There have been limited details released about the shooting, and residents told us they were frustrated with the lack of information.
I mean, some kind of communication, something would help us just to settle us a little bit. But this is no longer at 2 o'clock in the morning at the parks or, the game rooms or, wherever crime usually breeds. Now this is within our residential communities, and it's scary.
We've reached out to HPD for information, but have not heard back. A 21-year-old Hawaii Island man killed in a car crash Friday was going to be a father soon. That's according to loved ones of Alvin Godfrey Castro III. He died when the car he was driving on Mamalahoa Highway was hit by an SUV. The 40-year-old woman driving the SUV crossed the double solid yellow lines. Castro's mother also lost her husband earlier this year.
I just woke up that night. I didn't go sleep till maybe about 3 because, still dealing with the loss of my husband. The last thing I said, drive safe. I love you.
Her husband died in April after he suffered cardiac arrest and a stroke while he was hospitalized for heart issues. A GoFundMe page has been set up to help the family. A link can be found on our website.
Meanwhile, Honolulu police arrested a man accused of robbing a Waikiki bank. Officials say the 49-year-old walked into the Bank of Hawaii on Kalakaua Avenue around 10 a.m. on Saturday. He allegedly handed a note to the teller that said he had a gun, then demanded money. He made off with an unknown amount of cash, but was arrested around 1 a.m. Sunday. He now faces a second-degree robbery charge. In news across the nation, a family is in mourning and a community outraged as police in Utica, New York are piecing together what happened in the fatal shooting of a teenager by a police officer Friday night. Body camera footage of the incident was just released by the police department. Laura Aguirre has more and a warning: this may be graphic for some viewers.
Keep your hands out of your pockets.
Body-worn police cameras in Utica, New York captured a teen's final moments Friday night. 13-year-old Niam Y, seen here in a family photo, was stopped along with a second teen by Utica officers who were assisting an investigation into 2 robberies in the area. The boys matched the description of 2 suspects and were walking near where the crimes took place, according to a Utica police press release.
Can I just pat you down and make sure you got no weapons on you?
Officers soon take Y to the ground. A chaotic scuffle follows, and then the police chief says Y was immediately given first aid on scene, but later died at a hospital. Another body cam view shows what appears to be a gun in Y's hand, circled in red by police. Officials say they recovered this replica of a Glock firearm.
We meet deadly physical force with deadly physical force, including if there appears to be a handgun, whether it's replica or not.
Sunday night, police and city officials met with community members. Many of them, like Y and his family, are refugees from Myanmar. The crowd pushed back on claims the teen was armed.
While fleeing, the youth displayed what appeared to be a handgun.
Tensions flared from there. The 3 officers involved are on administrative leave with pay per protocol, while separate department and state investigations move forward. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
As social media continues to play a big part in our lives, some states are taking new steps to protect child influencers. Reporter Michael Yoshida joins us more and explains one new law taking place in Illinois.
Family vlogging can be lucrative, but some lawmakers and child advocates say it's time for the law to catch up, providing protections similar to those of child actors.
Parents in Illinois now required to compensate child influencers.
Childhood is now, in ways that we've never seen before, being commoditized.
Many family vloggers post multiple videos a month, and even though kids may be a big feature in the monetized clips, parents had no legal obligation to give their children any portion of earnings. That's now changed. Illinois' new law sets rules for how and when parents must set aside a percentage of money made from content creation where a child is featured, which they can access when they turn 18.
Sometimes it's the only source of income for a family, and I think that really complicates the parent-child, employer-employee relationships that we deal with.
Illinois' law is modeled off California's Coogan Act from the 1930s, which was inspired by a child actor who saw his money swindled away by his parents. Following Illinois' lead, other states have enacted and proposed similar bills, including California.
Set some standards about what kind of burden are we putting on parents and content creators that are reasonable and appropriate to protect against exploitation.
Advocates say financial protections are a good start, but more work is needed.
It's really the same fight in a slightly different form as the fight to impose child labor laws. How do we make sure that children have a safe and healthy childhood when everywhere they go, there is money to be made in exploiting one part or another about them?
Those we spoke with say as more states introduce legislation and focus on this issue, the hope is that eventually the federal government will take a look as well. In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Chinatown businesses affected by recent power outages met with HECO officials last night to fill out claim forms. Representatives from the Utilities Claims and Customer Service Department were there to help. This follows a days-long outage last month that forced Chinatown businesses to close.
Everyone feels sorry for the merchants who have lost, so suffered, not emotionally, but also financially because of the outage. But a lot of them don't speak English, don't understand English, and it's hard enough to fill out a form, but to fill it out with a language you're not familiar with, that's where we come in. We wanted to help them because we have the expertise.
We've only seen about 150 claims that have come in since last week. People have 30 days after the event to put in the claim, so we expect that we'll see more.
For those who were unable to stop by Sunday, you can get help from the Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii by calling 808-533-3181. Well, the city is marking 1 year of Honolulu Skyline being up and operational to the public. Our Casey Lunn has more.
Aloha from the Halava station. Of course, 1 year exactly on June 30th when Skyline opened that first segment to the riding public. I want to bring on Jason Lurs. He's the head of operations and maintenance for Hitachi, North America. This is a huge feat, obviously. We know this has been kind of an embattled, long-delayed project, but now we're focusing on the future, and we're focusing on how things are operating now. Can you give us a little bit of a status report as far as performance goes for this first leg?
Yeah, I mean, for segment one, we're performing extremely well. We're at 99.2 system performance. That's near perfection. This type of performance really involves like everything working perfectly. So 20,000 pieces of equipment, 250 employees, 2,000 procedures working in perfect harmony every day. At the end of the day, we celebrate and we start it all over again. So performance for over the past 12 months, 99.2, so very, very good numbers.
Let's talk a little bit about the future, as this is a great place to be. We're at the Halava station where things end, but looking down that way, we have some major things to look forward to. Access, direct access to Pearl Harbor, the Honolulu airport, which will be a huge thing. Can you remind people as they start to see trains going that way, what's happening as far as testing? How's the process going to look here in the next, as we try and get this complete by the end of 2025, right?
Yeah, I mean, we built the system in sections and components. So the platform screen gates, the platforms, the track, the signaling system, everything now has to be integrated and tested to ensure that they work well with each other. So yes, we're excited that on segment 2, we just did energization tests, which are the first step to allow us to run a train on the line. So we'll be doing clearance tests coming up this week, where you'll see the train riding on segment 2 as it goes through its clearing tests. And then we'll be doing integration tests after that, where we'll test the signaling system, how the train responds and reacts to the track side signals.
And as far as we know, I know things can come up during testing, but as far as any big issues, I know that the hammerheads in this first segment were something that was eventually resolved, but are we seeing anything glaring like that at this time?
No, I mean, the first segment, it's always the hardest to be the first to do anything, right? So the first segment, obviously, there were some issues, some unforeseens. I think lessons learned were applied. Segment 2 should be going smoothly. So we're somewhat ahead of schedule with regards to our testing and commissioning. But now we're just trying to integrate. So hopefully we'll get this open in 2025.
Very good. Jason Lurs with us from Hitachi, Director of Operations and Maintenance. We want to remind you, you can get your Holo card at different locations if you haven't ridden the rail yet. Certainly a milestone as we look back on 1 year of operations for Skyline. Reporting from the Halava station, I'm Casey Lunn. For now, we'll send things back into the studio.
Thank you so much, Case. Let's take a live look outside now with our tower cam looking over Honolulu. Gorgeous Aloha Monday. The temperature outside, 81 degrees. That weekend went by way too fast, you guys. Way too fast. So what's in store for this week? Guy tells us there's going to be some breezy winds all week. We're going to have his full forecast after this quick break.
How's it on this Monday, the first day of July? The deeper we go into hurricane season, it seems it doesn't really change, at least for today and for the next several days. We're not expecting any cyclonic activity here in the Central Pacific. Things are going to be very quiet and very nice. Weather's going to be the same. You can see there's not much rain out there this morning. It is a relatively dry morning, save for a few showers for the east end of the state's windward areas. And those winds pretty slow in picking up, but today they will run breezy. In fact, we're expecting breezy conditions for the rest of the week pretty much. And the weather's not going to change. This is what we'll see for the rest of the week. We start out every morning with a few windward and Mauka showers. There's not much out there. Lots of afternoon sunshine will drive temperatures into the upper 80s. Luckily, those breezy winds will help to keep us cool. And as far as surf, it's going to be pretty small today no matter where you go. We'll have some decent sized waves in town, but box jellyfish will be swimming in, so check with lifeguards just to be safe, especially Sandy Beach, Makapu'u, and Waikiki. So we've got a long stretch of really calm weather, a little breezy today and tomorrow, but the weather pattern's not going to change. It's going to be very lovely for the rest of the week. High temperatures running into the upper 80s. Over the weekend, however, the winds could get lighter and it could be a little bit more sticky.
Thank you so much for that forecast. In international news, a dangerous Category 4 hurricane is threatening parts of the eastern Caribbean. Hurricane Beryl regained strength over the weekend before making landfall in the region on Monday. Christian Benavides has been tracking the storm from Miami, Florida.
Hurricane Beryl made landfall near Grenada early Monday as residents on the Caribbean island hunkered down in their homes.
The state of emergency remains in place. It is for your own safety.
The Category 4 storm, packing winds of 150 miles per hour, dumped heavy rain throughout the Windward Islands and Barbados, blowing roofs off homes.
We're in a town called Worthing, close to the airport.
This travel blogger from Canada captured video of Beryl whipping up waves as it churned along the eastern Caribbean.
We are amongst many who will be impacted, and that kind of builds a sense of community in the middle of a storm like this.
In just a span of 42 hours, Beryl went from a tropical depression to a major hurricane, something forecasters say is rarely seen in the Atlantic at this time of year. Officials say that's due in part to warmer water temperatures resulting from climate change.
Teams are deployed to check for debris, check for fallen trees, check for fallen poles.
Ahead of the storm, residents on the islands boarded up shops and raced to grocery stores for essentials.
I have my water, bottled water and collected water. I have my extra food stuff, my batteries.
It's still unclear if Beryl will pose a threat to the U.S. after it moves on to other parts of the Caribbean and Mexico over the next few days. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Miami.
Well, another holiday hot for travel is approaching, and of course, experts are once again saying the numbers of people hitting the skies could set new records. Jared Hill has more on how passengers are coping ahead of the July 4th celebrations.
Daniela and William Miramontes are heading to Maine for the 4th, and this trip is extra special because they're also celebrating their son's birthday. He was born a year ago, premature.
Weighing 1.5 pounds, so he was very, very small. He fit in the palm of our hands. So we're very excited to be able to celebrate his big milestone in 1 year.
Airports are expecting a crush of travelers in the coming days. One reason why, ticket prices are down 18% from last year, according to the travel site Hopper.
You know, we got a pretty good deal. We booked somewhat last minute, but it wasn't too bad.
From Thursday to Sunday, the TSA screened more than 11.3 million people. That's a 5.3% increase from last year.
As an agency nationwide, we are going to be extremely busy for the summer. Okay, we are seeing record numbers since the pandemic.
There could be a record number of drivers on the road as well. AAA predicts more than 60 million people will drive 50 miles or more for the holiday.
What we're seeing is that people are going to go on their trips no matter what. And especially this summer, we're seeing the numbers even bigger than last summer, which was also a record-setting summer.
AAA says the worst traffic in metro areas will be on Wednesday, July 3rd and Sunday, July 7th as travelers head home. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Boeing is buying back its struggling fuselage maker, Spirit Aerosystems. Boeing announced the all-stock deal valued at $4.7 billion today. The deal comes after a big leadership shakeup at Boeing following that mid-flight door panel blowout from a nearly new Boeing 737 MAX 9 jet. Both Spirit and Boeing have struggled to stamp out manufacturing flaws, but Boeing says reacquiring Spirit will improve safety and quality control. Leaders at Boeing expect the deal to close in mid-2025, subject to approval by regulators. Slack Key performers from across the state came together on Maui. It was the 33rd annual Kiho'alu Festival at the MAC. It was a celebration of the art form and resilience of the Valley Isle, and the crowd was reminded that at every event that is held at the MAC, they collect canned goods for the Maui Food Bank. It serves as a reminder that the needs of residents on Maui continue, and the MAC always working to help the community.
It's time to check out some good news now, and we have a couple stories lined up for you. First off, we're going to start with this story of the pocket watch. Now, this pocket watch was owned by former President Teddy Roosevelt, and it has been returned 37 years after it initially disappeared. It was stolen from New York State's Sagamore Hill National Historic Site in 1987. According to the FBI, Roosevelt's family gave him the timepiece in 1898 before he left for Cuba during the Spanish-American War. After his death in 1919, the watch became property of Sagamore Hill National Historic Site. The National Park Service loaned it to the Wilcox Mansion in Buffalo in 1971, and that's where it vanished from an unlocked case. Now, in 2023, the pocket watch turned up in an auction by a Florida auction house, and that's when the auction house owner decided to return it over to Sagamore Hill. Nice piece there.
It's been all over the place.
It sure has.
You don't see pocket watches much anymore.
No, it is a piece of the past, so to speak.
Pretty. And Olympic fever, you guys, it's going down. Paris Games later this month. And this is one of the big stories coming from the track and field world. So a teenage sprinting sensation. He's set to become the youngest ever U.S. male track Olympian. Sunday, 16-year-old Quincy Wilson announced on social media that he will compete in the 4x400 meter relay roster at the Olympic Games. Wilson's coach also confirmed the news to both the Washington Post and USA Today. Now, Wilson's selection comes after a brilliant debut at the U.S. Olympic trials last week, where he twice broke a 400-meter world record. The sprinter has quickly established himself as one of the most promising rising stars in track and field. Now he gets a chance to prove himself on the world stage. Don't forget, the Olympic Games kick off on July 26th. NBC is your Olympics station.
And Ash, you were pretty athletic as well, right? Did you do track and field?
I did do track and field. I did hurdles, but I mean, nothing to brag about.
Future Olympian Ashley Nagaoka, everyone. And also a programming note, everyone, we have been waiting for a news conference with Governor Josh Green regarding the signing of some bills to protect Hawaii's keiki and kupuna. However, they are running behind, so we will work to bring you this news conference live when it happens on your H&N digital platforms. That includes streaming on our app and our Facebook pages as well. So stay tuned for that. Now let's end outside with another live look. A beautiful first day of July. Thank you all so much for tuning in here to This Is Now.
Aloha.